Hi, Travis. Can you hear us?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Megan,
Yes,
I had to leave and then call back in. Am I in the meeting?
you are, ma'am. I will merge with your video here so everybody knows that's you.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, can you hear us?
Sure enough, can, yep.
Okay, thank you. Clint, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Furry, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm going to ask you if you go ahead and please use *6 or your device is mute until it's your time to speak. That'd be great. Thank you.
Am I not muted?
No, it's *6 if you're using Zoom or your device is mute, whichever is easier for you.
Okay.
Jeremiah, can you hear us? Jeremiah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Clint, you have a quorum of, I think all the members are checked in. So whenever it turns 7 o'clock, you can start the meeting.
All right, we'll just give it one more minute. All right, good evening. This is a Planning Commission public information meeting. Present at this evening's meeting are Jeremiah Weddle, Denny Reeder, David Klein, BJ Getz, Jeff Semler, and Randy Wagner. I'm Clint Wiley. The purpose of this meeting is to consider a text amendment application prepared for Section 4.26 of the Washington County zoning ordinance to deter placement of solar arrays on productive agricultural land in rural areas. Staff will present a summary of the application. Then the Planning Commission members will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff. Citizens will be given the opportunity for comment. Individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak, or one representative of a group or organization will be given 5 minutes to speak. The Planning Commission will review all facts and information received during the meeting and make its recommendation at a later date to the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners will then hold a public hearing. The date of the County Commissioners' public hearing is not known at this time. It will be advertised in the local newspaper's legal ads 14 days before the hearing and again 7 days before the hearing and posted on the county's website. At the end of the County Commissioners' public hearing, the comment period will close. This meeting is being recorded. To present the staff summary of the application is Jill Baker. Jill?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Terrific. So this is Jill Baker, the Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning. And this evening I will be presenting the staff report for RZ 21-004, requested text amendment to the county zoning ordinance for the purpose of amending section 4.26, which is in reference to the solar energy generating systems. This section was first started to be amended into the zoning ordinance in 2009. And we've had subsequent changes since then in 2011 as the technology has changed and the land uses have changed. The purpose of this amendment was brought forth by the Planning Commission members over concerns relating to prime agricultural soils and the location of these commercial entities on and using up those prime agricultural soils. As you all may know, currently we do have it written into the ordinance that these uses are to be prohibited within our targeted land preservation areas that include the rural legacy area, as well as our priority preservation areas. This amendment expands upon that by requiring that applicants take into account the soils that are on the property, and if there are any class 1 and 2 prime agricultural soils, that to the degree practicable that they should avoid disturbing those areas with such uses. I don't have anything further to add at this point in time. I did forward this evening a copy, or an email I should say, of comments made by another group who has another amendment going on that you'll hear about a little bit later through Calvert Energy, kind of wanting to tack on a little bit to the amendment that we have proposed this evening. But they do have those comments in. And while we didn't receive them directly as a result of this case, our department recently received comments from the Farm Bureau for Washington County regarding just kind of in general the concept of solar energy and keeping them out of prime agricultural soils. So again, while it wasn't directed strictly to this rezoning amendment, it was in relation to the perennial solar judgments that have come down recently. I felt it was pertinent to bring that up, that these amendments would be supported by the Farm Bureau to limit to the degree possible new solar energy generating systems on areas that have class 1 or 2 prime agricultural soils. That's all I have for a staff report. I'm happy to take any questions, or if you want to move on to public comment, that'd be fine as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. So commission members, you have an opportunity to ask any questions of Jill. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, are there, I don't have a list of anybody who's signed up for public comment. Are there any members of the public who are here to speak tonight?
And this is Deb. We didn't have anybody sign up to speak this evening.
Okay, I didn't think so. I'll still give an opportunity if there's anybody that has logged in to speak. All right. And I guess that concludes our public rezoning information meeting this evening. Next on this evening, hang on one second. Next on this evening's agenda, we have minutes, May 3, 2021 Planning Commission Public Rezoning Information Meeting and regular meeting minutes. Are there any questions, comments?
Move to approve.
We've got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Okay, under old business, we have RZ-21-001, Calvert Energy LLC. Recommendation for the proposed text amendment to section 4.26 of the Washington County zoning ordinance to allow solar energy generating systems within priority preservation areas that have an industrial mineral zoning designation. And Travis Allen is the planner. Good evening, Travis.
Good evening, everyone. This is Travis Allen, Comprehensive Planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. And you will recall that we had the public information meeting for this proposed text amendment last month, which does propose to amend the same section of the zoning ordinance that we just looked at for Jill's amendment. Of course, this one came in first, so it's a little bit of a coincidence that they happen to be looking at the same section. But again, this one pertains to the regulation of solar energy generating systems within priority preservation areas that also have an IM zoning district designation. The applicant is therefore then looking to permit as a special exception the location of the solar energy generating systems on lands that fall within both a PPA and an IM zoning district. And again, as far as we know right now, looking around the county, this text amendment would only apply specifically to these specific lands that are encompassing the Boonesboro Quarry in terms of these overlapping overlay districts on them. The amendments, again, also would not change any other existing regulations for solar energy generating systems, PPAs, or mining within the county. I believe, Megan, you have a slide there of the text that is proposed to be amended. Is that correct? Yeah, just go ahead and go to that one. Thank you. So again, this is the language that they are proposing. Essentially, again, inserting a clause into that same section that, unlike the current language, which prohibits solar energy generating systems completely from priority preservation areas, this would allow them if the PPA happens to also fall within an IM overlay zoning district. Again, we have received, at this point, no public comments, either for or against this proposed rezoning. The only other sort of newish information that I wanted to bring to the Planning Commission's attention before we turn it over to your discussion is that there was a great deal of discussion of how many acres would be encumbered by solar panels or taken up by this lease area. And after talking to the applicant following the meeting, really what we're looking at here is a community solar project less than 2 megawatts in size and actually only taking up about 16 to 17 acres or so of that southernmost parcel that we were looking at throughout the rezoning meeting last time. So I just wanted you to be aware of that we're not looking at 80 acres or 160 acres of solar panels. We're actually only looking at about 16 or 17 acres on the mining lands here that we're talking about. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Planning Commission to engage in their discussion to ultimately provide a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, thank you, Travis. I'll open the floor for discussion. Any members have comments?
Why is a text amendment needed? Can't they just apply anyway? I'm opposed to creating a new rule. Yeah, 16 acres now, maybe next week it's 80 acres. I'm opposed to creating a carte blanche rule that just allows something without looking at it as a case-by-case basis. Now, if they come in and they want to do a solar array on 16 acres and we're okay with that, that's fine. I don't see any opposition to that. I do see opposition to just creating carte blanche approval that can be used by whomever, whenever, wherever. I just don't see the need for that. That's just my opinion.
Commissioner Klein, if I could address that for you, this isn't a carte blanche. This is extremely isolated. This is really only referring to one property right now in Washington County. It was a quirk that one of those properties happened to have the IM district that we put in a PPA. We try to be very careful about keeping priority funding areas, which is what an IM district also has, outside of those PPAs, knowing full well that eventually those areas will be developed. So I hope that we're not giving you the impression that this is, going to repeatedly happen over and over and over again. That's not what this is about. This is really only about one parcel that happened to get stuck in the middle of what seems to be a mapping error to us. In terms of whether or not they can move forward with this without this amendment, the answer is no, because when you're dealing with a solar energy generating system that is less than 2 megawatts, it is outside of the purview of the Public Service Commission and therefore falls to the county in terms of whether or not we will allow it. And our zoning ordinance is very explicit. We will not allow them within a priority preservation area. So even if they tried to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals or whatever, they would be denied because it has that overlay on that property. So I just wanted to clarify those points to hopefully make sense a little bit.
And so Jill, so let me understand what you're saying there. You think that this is a map error specific to this parcel. And if they don't put the solar arrays on here, they would have every right to mine the property and dig a hole in the ground and dig for minerals, right?
They have that right as it stands. Yes, that is correct.
So being in a priority preservation area, unless there's an industrial mineral overlay, that industrial mineral overlay means that even in a priority preservation area, they could mine that property and basically do the digging and removal of earth as they wanted to, right?
That is correct. That's why we're kind of viewing this as a mapping error.
Yeah, so the question in my mind is solar panels on an area that could be a very deep hole, the minerals of the ground actually removed from it. What's worse? I mean, eventually, if this went back to farmland, you could remove the solar panels, but if they mine that property, it's dead, whether it's a preservation area or not.
I guess my thought, this is Jeff, I looked at the, after the last meeting, I went in and looked and I could find the 16.8 acres that I thought they were going to utilize, and based on Travis's comments, I think I found them. 66% of that ground is what we would consider a class 1 or 2 soils. And I think that's where I get hung up, is we're basically violating the spirit of our regulation when we're trying to preserve prime farmland. If you're putting solar panels on there, that tells me that that's not going to be a brownfield for 20 years. I'm fine with solar panels on brownfields, but I think that's kind of where I get hung up, is we're trying to preserve farmland, even if it does have mineral rights under it. It looks like to me that Corey's saying we don't plan to disturb that soil for 20 years, which means it could be productively in production agriculture for 20 years. And I know everybody thinks that 16 acres isn't much, but a blizzard only starts with one single snowflake.
This is Dave again. It's been a while since we looked at the maps. Are there a lot of additional acres that would be subject to this ordinance then, not just the 16?
I'm sorry, Dave, could you repeat that?
Okay, it's been a while since we looked at this. the map and the area. And you're saying tonight it's 16 acres, but weren't there a lot of other acres of agricultural land around the quarries that would also be subject to this? I mean, this does not, I don't see anywhere in your language here where this applies to this specific 16 acres.
It's because it's not in the language. What we're telling you is that is a mapping exercise. What we did is we said, okay, if we put this language into the ordinance, how many other parcels in Washington County would have this exact same issue and could use this exact same exemption? The answer is none. This is the only parcel in Washington County where we have established a priority preservation area over top of an industrial mineral zoning district. So that's why I said I feel like this was more of a mapping error on our part, that we didn't pick up the fact that this parcel had an IM district on top of it. So that's all I was trying to say is that it's very unique to this parcel, the overlapping of the different overlay districts and the different layers of land preservation controls that we have on it. I don't think it was intended to be this way, and that's indicative of the fact that this is the only one in Washington County that looks this way.
So
that's all.
Jill, are you saying that you think the mistake had to do with putting a priority preservation area overlay on this parcel?
Yes, I believe the error was when we put the priority preservation area on here because it was already zoned for industrial mineral. Therefore, we would have already acknowledged the fact that there would be no land preservation effort being made on the property because the intended end use is for a mining operation.
Which would then
So-
completely pull this solar discussion around this article out of the equation and move it more towards a planning approval, right?
Correct.
I think the reason that the prior preservation overlay was put on top of it was so that the only thing they could do was mining. So my opinion was that it's not a mistake because it sits in the middle of one of our best priority preservation areas. It's kind of like what came first. Unfortunately, that quarry was there, if I understand it, prior to when the PPA area was designated, and yet they wanted to preserve the area around it. So the overlay, it was kind of a problem back then. So the overlay was to allow them to continue what they were doing, but because of it being located in that PPA, that's why I think that the overlay was put on there. So now taking it back off is undoing what the intent of the overlay was in the first place. What's the recommendation from the Ag Advisory Board? We have a whole board that focuses on preservation and the PPA area. What was their recommendation?
I think you would know that better than I do.
Yeah, we just had a meeting and it wasn't even brought up.
Jeremiah, this is Dave. I'm with you on this. They have permission to mine there. That's what they do. And now they want to change the function. Well, what if they want to build a factory there or something else, or, a battery factory or something that's totally different? And they say, well, we have the right to do that because we have this whatever prior zoning. This is a change in use, in my opinion. And I think if you want to mine it, go ahead and mine it. But I don't see passing this, in my opinion. It's just, again, that's my opinion. I just don't see it.
We just had a Ag Advisory Board meeting, and I didn't even bring this up because it wasn't presented to us. And from the last meeting, the last Planning Commission meeting, I kind of felt like a lot of the feelings were mutual. So
gotta-
I do have to ask why, why do we have a whole board that is focused on our preservation areas, which are all in the PPA for the most part? And that board, that committee's not even been notified of this situation. And should they
Because
be?
that committee has nothing to do with zoning. This is a zoning issue. This is not particularly a land preservation issue. Again, I would say that if we felt from a staff level that this was going to be used on a widespread basis across the county that would have a significant impact on our land preservation programs, we would absolutely be bringing that forth to the Agricultural Land Preservation Committee. That's not what this is about. This is about one particular issue. It's about zoning more than it is about the land preservation efforts. And that was the discussion that we held. So, maybe that's a difference of opinion with what you're talking about here, but again, it's not a widespread issue. It is a very unique, individualized issue to one property, not the entire land preservation program. That's why it was not submitted or discussed with them.
I'm just gonna come back and make a comment that says, I understand that they can do mining here, but if I think of the destructive nature of mining to the neighborhoods, the blasting that goes on, the traffic that goes with it, they do not intend with wanting to put solar panels on this 16 acres to do that anytime in the near future. That would be the assumption, which would probably be the right assumption, which I see the land preservation and everything, but this is a mining operation that can be destructive to the neighborhoods. It can impact foundations that, if we have an opportunity to have the solar here, I know it takes farmland away, but, not looking at this in a very, very specific isolated instance, which is what the staff is telling us it is, they may make the mine to go ahead and move forward with mining it, which has a lot of issues with it. That's just my opinion.
I asked last meeting to the gentleman that presented what the future was, and there was no future to close that mine anytime soon. So whether they blast on that 16 acres or whether they blast in the whole, this is easy for me to say because I don't live close there. I don't know if there's a difference.
Sounds like we're pretty close to a consensus. Do we want to take a vote?
Sure.
All right, so let's do it this way. Those in favor of making a recommendation against the proposed text amendment, let's we could go by row. Let's see, Jeremiah.
I am against the text amendment.
Opposed. Denny. Opposed. David.
Opposed.
BJ.
In favor.
Favor. Jeff.
Opposed.
Okay. And I know Randy is going to recuse himself because this will come to the county commissioners. So we have a consensus by 4-1 roll call to make a recommendation against the proposed text amendment. All right. So next on our agenda under new business, we have SP-20-021, 68 BFS Foods. Proposed construction of a service station, a convenience store, and 2 restaurants. Yes.
I'm sorry if I can interrupt. We revised the agenda on you. Sorry, last minute revision.
Okay.
I don't know. We just sent it out, I think last week. We have a modification. that came in at the last minute that we tried to get on here because it seemed like a simple thing, but Megan has it up there on the screen if you want to kind of read from
Oh,
that, and then
all right,
Rebecca's going
sure.
to be the planner. Sorry.
All right, no problem. But then the rest of the new business is in the same order then?
Yes,
just wanna
I'm
make sure,
sorry.
'cause I
This would
must-
be the only revision to the agenda
Okay.
tonight.
All right, I must have the wrong agenda, and I apologize to everybody for that. So first item tonight under new business is OM-21-005 Emerald Point PUD. This is a modification request to reduce front yard setback from 20 feet to 10.4 feet and 16.1 feet along a secondary frontage of corner lot. The location is 13306 Diamond Point Drive. And Rebecca is the planner. Good evening, Rebecca.
Good evening. This is Rebecca Calamer, Chief of Plan Review. The summary there really sums it up. Typically, setback modification or variance would be held with the BZA, but with this being the PUD is why you're hearing it tonight. So it's RT zoning with the PUD overlay, and really I'm going to turn it over to Gordon Poffenberger with Fox and Associates to present their justification and rationale behind the request.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. Good evening, Gordon. Go right ahead.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you. We're asking for a front setback variance as shown on the drawing there. We actually had an error on our preliminary plat that was approved. The preliminary plat showed a front setback on 242 with a side setback on the side of the house, when in reality, this is a corner lot. It should have had 2 front yard setbacks. So when our preliminary plat was approved, we took those CAD files and we prepared exhibits for Paul's sales staff so he knows which lots will fit his 42-foot duplex and which lots will fit his 48-foot duplex. This one was shown fitting the larger unit in error. He's got a contract. He's got somebody who wants to build this house immediately. When we prepared the plot plan, we pulled the recorded final plat, and the recorded final plat had the setbacks correctly. And we looked at like what's going on here and realized we made a mistake. So we're asking tonight to reduce those front setbacks to allow this house to be constructed. It's on a corner lot, so there's no affected adjoiner, and there's a stop condition at this intersection. The traffic on Diamond Point doesn't stop, so there's still gonna be plenty of sight distance for people at the intersection. That's all I have to add. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Gordon. Any questions or comments from members of the board? Hearing none, I would need a motion.
Steve, I move to approve.
This is
Got a
BJ. I'll
motion.
second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? All in favor? Excuse me.
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so carried.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Gordon. Good luck.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we go on to the copy of the agenda I have. Next item is SP-20-021. Star 68 BFS Foods has a proposed construction of a service station, a convenience store, and 2 restaurants, a detached fast food restaurant with drive-through, and 43 semi-truck parking spaces at 436 East Main Street, Hancock. Zoning is business general, and Ashley Holloway is the planner. Good evening, Ashley.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Ashley Holloway, Director of Plan Review and Permitting for Washington County. Before you is a site plan for the Hancock area. And just to outline what's going to go on at this site here is do construction of basically a convenience store, gas station, and restaurant. And also on the property is going to be a separate fast food drive-through restaurant. Just really quickly, again, the address is 434 East Main Street in Hancock. There are going to be 6 petroleum gas stations and 3 diesel fuel stations. There are also going to be 42 semi-truck parking spaces, which, as you can see in the site plan there. All utilities for water and sewer is by the town of Hancock, and they have approved this site. Excuse me, they approved the project. An administrative adjustment was granted for a freestanding sign to be 20 feet from the right-of-way, and this was granted on May 5th of this year. It's case number ADJ2021-001. A large portion of the property is in the floodplain, but no buildings are being constructed on it. Forest conservation is exempt due to proposal not increasing any impervious surface. And wall signage will be applied for by each tenant. On the line here, we have Jackson Gardner, who is the design professional for this project. Jackson, do you want to say some more about the project that we have before the commissioners?
Yeah, I can do a couple things here. Like I said, we have a total of 68 parking spaces for the C-store and a total of 48 or 46 for the Burger King. So we got a total area just shy of 6 acres. But yeah, like as you can plan, that's what we have. We're going to be doing our stormwater through fire retention. Yeah, like I said, you hit most of the key points there in your opening.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jackson. Okay. I do ask planning commissioners that you allow for staff approval for this project. There's one outstanding agency that still needs to approve this site plan, and that's the State Highway Administration. Currently, they are reviewing the traffic study that was required by that agency for this project. And once they're finished reviewing that, then they're going to go ahead and review the site plan. So again, I'm asking for final staff approval for this. Thank you.
All right, Ashley. Are there any questions for Ashley from members of the board?
This is Denny. So the existing truck stop that's there now, all the buildings will be removed?
That is correct. Yeah, all this is going to be new construction.
Great. That'll be a big improvement.
It will be. I agree. Any other questions? Hearing none, we would look for a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
This is Denny. I'll second.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
The next item this evening is SP-20-016 Bowman Sunfish. Proposed construction of a 480,000 square foot warehouse with office on 55-acre parcel located at 12000 Greencastle Pike. The zoning is highway interchange, and Lisa Kelly is our planner. Good evening, Lisa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we have you.
Hello? Yes, okay. As mentioned, we have a site plan for Bowman Sunfish. The site is located on Greencastle Pike. Zoning is HI, highway interchange. The developer is proposing to create a 480,000 square foot warehouse with office on their 55-acre parcel. 48,000 square feet of that will be office. It will have one main access onto Greencastle Pike. The site will be served by public water and sewer. Hours of operation are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Proposed employees are 130 for the warehouse and 30 for the office. Solid waste will be provided by a roll-off trash compactor in the bay. Parking will be 275 spaces. 426 spaces are required. However, the developer was granted a modification by the Board of Appeals in March of this year, allowing for the reduction in required parking numbers. Total trailer parking will have 199 spaces. Site lighting will be pole and building mounted, and signage will be building mounted. Landscaping will be planted in front of the building and along the border of the adjacent single-family home. Forest conservation will be met by on-site and off-site forestation retention for a total of 22.24 acres. If you could get, we could request that you would give permission for staff to approve, since we still have the health department outstanding with their approval. And also Travis would need to present to you tonight the forestation plan. I believe there's a modification that is required by the Planning Commission for their forestation. I don't have anything else to add. Dave Trossel is consultant for Frederick Seibert, if you have anything further to ask him.
Okay, members of the commission, are there any questions for Lisa? All right. Two things. First is the previous, I just caught this. The previous approval for BFS Foods should include staff approval. If there's any issue with that, let me know, but I want to just correct the record for that. For this one as well, we would be looking for a motion that would include staff approval as well as pending approval for the forest conservation.
Dave, I'm approve and allow for staff approval.
Okay. We've got a motion for approval.
I'll second. This would be Dave.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 First one.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, Lisa. Stand by. We need you for the next one.
Right.
Next on our agenda is SP-21-002, Bowman Showalter Warehouse. Proposed construction of an 801,000 square foot warehouse with offices on 86 acres located at 13850 Creighton Boulevard. The zoning is highway interchange. And again, Lisa, you're here to present.
Right. Thank you. Up is, for your consideration, is Bowman Showalter Warehouse. As mentioned, it is on the south side of Showalter Road and east of I-81. Zoning is highway interchange. The developer is proposing to create 801,000 square foot warehouse with office on 86 acres. 48,000 square feet of that will be office, and it will have one access onto Showalter Road. Site will be served by public water and sewer. Hours of operation, again, are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 130 employees for the warehouse and 30 for the office. Solid waste, again, will be roll-off trash compactor in the bay. Parking will be 667 spaces and 640 are required. Total trailer parking will have 188 spaces. Site lighting will be pole and building mounted, and signage will be building mounted. Landscaping will be planted in front of the building and along the drive lanes, as you can see there on the screen. Forest conservation will be met by off-site forestation retention for a total of 18 acres. I would request that you give staff the authority to approve, since we still need final approval from the health department and engineering. Nothing controversial. They just need to finalize a few minor things, and then it should be good to go. Dave Trossel is also the consultant, Frederick Seibert, representing the developer, if you have any questions of them or of me.
Lisa, can I just point out one thing?
Sure.
The only thing in the staff report, and I think at one time we had an access off of Showalter, but that was revised and all access comes off Creighton. So we have the two access off of Creighton. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, okay, okay.
All right, thank you for that. Members of the commission, any questions for Lisa? Hearing none, we would need a motion that would include staff approval.
Dave, I move to approve and allow for staff approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. Thank you. Next on this evening's agenda is SP-21-004. This is Bowman Rider Trailer Parking, proposed construction of 109 tractor trailer parking spaces on 5.2 acres. Zoning is planned industrial, and Elisa is the planner yet again.
Okay. As mentioned, we have a site plan for Bowman Rider trailer parking. Site is located along the west side of Governor Lane Boulevard, adjacent to the Bowman offices and storefronts that most of you are probably familiar with. Zoning is planned industrial. The developer is proposing to create 109 tractor trailer spaces on 5.2 acre parcel. There will be obviously no employees, and it will be used 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. There will be one paved access onto Governor Lane Boulevard. The trailer parking will be gravel. There will be no lighting or signage. Forest conservation ordinance requirements will be met by retaining forests off-site for a total of 1.80 acres. We have all approvals in on this one, so should be good to go.
Any questions from members of the board? Hearing none, we would be looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate your presentations this evening.
Okay, you're welcome.
Next.
Thank you very
on
much.
Sure, no problem. Thank you. The next section under our agenda are forest conservation. And the first item there is SP-20-016 Bowman Sunfish.
Okay.
Proposed on-site and off-site forest conservation ordinance mitigation and removal of specimen tree for property being developed at 12000 Greencastle Pike. And Travis is the planner. Good evening, Travis.
Good evening again, everyone. Travis Allen, Comprehensive Planner with Planning and Zoning. This is the first of the three Bowman site plans that you just looked at, Bowman Sunfish, again, south of Hewitt's Crossroads. They're looking to advance two different requests to meet their forest mitigation. One is to establish an off-site easement, which is located on the Bowman lands that are kind of out by X-Line Road. And the second one is to remove one specimen tree, which is located in the western half of the property. So of their 38-acre disturbance that's created for this property, they have a 14.81 planting requirement. So these requests deal with two different sections of the Forest Conservation Ordinance. The off-site mitigation request deals with the Article 10 preferred sequence of mitigation, and that describes the preferred sequence of techniques for mitigating forest conservation, ranging from on-site planting or retention all the way down to the payment in lieu of option being the least preferred of those techniques. The intent is to preserve as much forest on site or create as much forest on site as possible before moving the mitigation off-site to retain the environmental benefits within the same watershed. Off-site retention is a less preferred option in the sequence, but still viable in the right circumstances. The other request, the variance, relates to Article 15 of the Forest Conservation Ordinance. Specimen trees, which are defined as those greater than 30 inches in diameter, are prioritized for retention in Article 8 of the Forest Conservation Ordinance. So therefore, it does require a variance under Article 15. Article 15 states that the Planning Commission may grant a variance where, owing to special features of the applicant's property or other circumstances, the standards or requirements of the ordinance would result in unwarranted hardship to the applicant. That article also states that granting the variance must be consistent with the intent of the Forest Conservation Act, and that the relief granted shouldn't adversely affect water quality. So those are kind of the two main criteria for these variances, the conditions of hardship and then any effects on water quality. So in support of the request, you have a few different materials. The memo summarizes their request. You also have the Forest Conservation Plan, which shows the locations of the easement on and off site. And then you have two different justification letters from the qualified professional. So looking first at the off-site easement request, you can see on the left side of the screen there, the developer does propose to satisfy the vast majority of their planting requirement on site through both planting and retention, kind of along the eastern portion of the property. And again, the area proposed for the off-site easement, which is the right side of your screen there, is on lands owned by Mr. Bowman, where he has previously established forest easements for a number of different projects. The second request, the specimen tree variance, the applicant's justification letter contends that elevation changes and the specific location of the tree, you can see it located again on the left-hand side, very nearby to the road frontage, within an area that's slated for parking. Those two factors make it very difficult to retain. They also further note that 4 of the 5 specimen trees on the site are proposed to remain and would be put in an easement. And they further state that the stormwater management created for the site would likely help mitigate any water quality effects from the removal of that tree. And again, you can see where those easements are to be established on site, that primarily occurs in the floodplain, so that would likely also have water quality benefits as well too. So again, the request is before the Planning Commission first to establish an off-site easement on lands owned by Mr. Bowman, and secondly, for the request to grant a variance to remove the 1 specimen tree in the western half of the property.
All right, thank you, Travis. Any questions from members of the commission for Travis?
What's the species of the specimen tree?
That one, let's see here.
I think it's yellow pine on your back page in fine print. Is that what it says up in the left?
Yeah, I don't, unfortunately, I don't see it either in the justification letter or in the FSD that I have available. I don't think it was defined as to what the species was.
It's not going to change my mind, and I don't care, but I was just curious because it sounds like to me, and again, I'm new to this whole deal, that a specimen tree is based on the caliber of the tree. And I can tell you that for me, a 30-inch sycamore has much less value than a 30-inch white oak. So I was just curious.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we would be looking for a motion.
David?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I'm sorry?
That's for 1 and 2, right, Clint? Under forest conservation?
It's for the Bowman Sunfish.
Correct.
Yes. Right. And of course that ties to their, their other application that we have already approved. All right, so we have one more item this evening under Forest Conservation. That's SP-20-014, Creekside Logistics. Variance request for the removal of a specimen tree for property located at 12524 Greencastle Pike. Planner is Travis Allen.
Okay, and this particular project is also one that you have seen previously, but this was probably close to a year ago at this point. Another large warehouse facility just north of the Sheets at Hewitt's Crossroads. You may recall there was actually a request granted by the Planning Commission to previously remove 6 specimen trees from your site, which you could see in the image in your screen are all encompassed within the red shaded areas. So you previously granted a variance to remove all of these trees that you see on the screen there. What the applicant has discovered in kind of nailing down the details of this particular site plan is that there is one additional specimen tree. It's a little bit tricky to see, but you see a stormwater management facility in kind of the southwest corner of the development. There's a specimen tree there labeled S10, and that was not previously approved by the previous variance for removal. So now they're here tonight looking to remove that particular tree as well, looking for the Planning Commission to grant that request. In this particular case, I do know the species of this one. It was delineated as a 37-inch black walnut tree, and it is currently in poor condition. You can see the photographs there. The qualified professional visited the site, and the tree is not dead yet, but it is probably not long-lived for this world in the current state that it's in. The problem with that tree, aside from its general condition, is that you can see its location is just north of the stormwater management facility and is essentially located right where they're going to have an outlet for that stormwater management facility. So alternate locations where they could potentially put that outlet, according to the qualified professional, would likely end up resulting in them having to remove additional qualified forest instead of just simply one single specimen tree that's already in poor condition. So in terms of water quality effects for the site, more than likely they would be less through the removal of this tree, again, than they would be for removing, part of an entire stand of trees to relocate that outlet. The applicant's justification letter also goes on to state that they are doing 1.25 acres of wetland mitigation, as well as creating some pollinator habitat due to impacts from the proposed warehouse facility and the sensitive areas that are going to be impacted already on the site. So although it's unfortunate they have to remove this or are requesting to move this additional tree, its removal is probably a less bad scenario than relocating the stormwater management facility to a place where it might impact other forest. So again, the request in this case is to remove one specimen tree from the property.
All right, thank you, Travis. Are there any questions for Travis on this? I mean, that tree looks like it's in pretty poor condition right now.
Right here.
Hearing no questions or feedback, I'd be looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Now we've got a
Okay.
motion for approval and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. Thank you, everybody. That concludes our hearing this evening. Just a reminder that we have public rezoning information meeting next week, Monday at 6:30 p.m.
Clint, sorry to interrupt again. There's still a lot more on the agenda yet.
Oh, heck, I'm really sorry. I didn't even flip to the other side. My,
Okay.
I guess.
We're excited to leave too, but
No, I'm sorry. Wow. It's been, I tell you, I really apologize. I started my day at 3 a.m. this morning and I'm a little bit, a little fuzzy right now. So I apologize for that. All right. Under other business, we have SP-21-003, Fix and Go, waiver to request a section of 19.9I of the Washington County zoning ordinance from the requirement to provide public water and sewer for a tractor trailer repair shop located at 16001 Lappins Road. The zoning is highway interchange and the planner is Lisa. Thanks, Lisa. I'm really sorry.
Oh, no problem. Wishful thinking, I'm sure. In any event, I'm currently reviewing a site plan, or it's being reviewed by our office along with the other outstanding agencies for a Fix and Go, which is a truck repair outside of Williamsport on Lappins Road. And it's not ready for the Planning Commission yet. The site plan goes, but they are in an HI district. And the zoning ordinance requires that anything within that district have public water and sewer. And they do not have that. They are proposing well and septic. And Adam Hager is the consultant from Frederick Seibert who is working on the site plan. And in your agenda packet, you will see a letter from Adam stating the reasons why they should be allowed to use well and septic. And with that, Adam, if you are online here, you can chime in if you want. Not hearing Adam. Okay. I don't have anything else to add to the presentation. I believe the health department has no problem, as far as I understand, with well and septic at this site. And I believe the water lines, sewer lines are not adjacent to the site. So in any event, I don't have anything else to add unless there's any questions.
Any questions from members of the board? To me, it looks pretty straightforward.
Use. I don't see a problem with it. I move to approve.
All right, we've got a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Next, we have the associated item SP-21-008. This is also for Fix and Go, a waiver to request from section 19.9I of the Washington County zoning ordinance from the requirement to provide public water and sewer for a tractor trailer repair shop located on the south side of Brentwood Drive, east of the CSX Railroad. Zoning is highway interchange, and Rebecca is the planner. Good evening, Rebecca. Welcome back. You almost got off.
Good evening.
You almost got away with only having one on the agenda tonight.
Right. This may be the most I've ever had on the agenda. So, so this is actually a very similar request to what Lisa's just presented for the same developer. They have another prospective site at Nursery Road, the old Nursery Road bed, Bentwood Drive. It's east of the railroad tracks, west of Lakeside Development. They're actually requesting just a well. They'll be having public sewer facilities. And the closest water line that they would have access to is over at Hopewell Road on the other side of the railroad tracks. Lakeside actually is on a private system. And so, Adam has submitted the request letter. I don't know if he's on available to talk, if he had anything to add. But this hasn't been rounded for review yet. And I actually requested, I had sent the request to the health department for their comment and didn't receive anything back. So again, this is a very, very similar request. And unless you have any other questions.
Rebecca, I'm on for this one.
Are there any questions for Rebecca? Hearing no questions, I'm looking for a motion.
Denny, I make a motion to approve.
This is BJ. I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Third item this evening under other business, we have the annual report and Jill Baker. Good evening, Jill.
Good evening, everyone. Again, Jill Baker, Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning. Included within your package, you should have received the annual report that we are required by law to submit to the Maryland Department of Planning each year. We are reporting on the previous calendar year, so you will note that the annual report is for the 2020 calendar year. You'll see there's several different sections there of information that the state has requested us to report on. And we do that through using our permit tracking system, Acela automation, and some other pieces of information that we pull from throughout the year. I don't want to go through this whole thing line by line by line. I think it's pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. So like I said, I don't want to waste a lot of time reading straight through it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have about it. What I am seeking this evening is a consensus approval so that we may submit this to the Maryland Department of Planning.
Any questions for Jill from members of the commission? Hearing no questions, any discussion? So Jill, you're just looking for consensus from the board?
Yeah, consensus on approval to submit to the Maryland Department of Planning.
Okay. When I do this, I'll just go through this as a roll again. Jeff, we'll start with you. Are you in favor of submitting this, approving this to submit to the state?
Yep. Send it.
All right. BJ?
I approve.
David Klein? Dave?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
No problem. Denny? Jeremiah?
Approve.
And Randy?
Yeah, I think I'm okay. I don't think this, aren't I, Jill? I approve.
Yeah,
right,
we submit a copy to the Board of County Commissioners, but they don't have any approval authority on it.
Okay, so there's your consensus, Jill.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. The next item we have is an update of staff approvals. Ashley Holloway.
Good evening again. Ashley Holloway, Director of Plan Review and Permitting. Before you is a monthly report of all the plans and permits that were submitted to the county. Just highlight some really quickly. There were 4 standard grading plans submitted. 3 stormwater standard plans, 2 site plans. As far as permits, there were 8 entrance permits, 6 grading permits, 2 floodplain permits, and 2 administrative adjustments for the zoning code. All right, are there any questions for me?
The serious busy month.
It sure
Yes.
was busy.
Wow.
Yeah, we are getting into our busy season, and it's not slowing down. So I wouldn't be surprised if these numbers are higher for June.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions of Ashley while we have him? All right, Ashley, thank you. We appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Next item we have is comprehensive plan update. Jill?
Good evening again, Jill Baker, Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning. So with much anticipation, I know we've been waiting with bated breath for a long time on this. I'm happy to announce we've made some tremendous progress now that we're starting to get our positions filled and COVID is starting to wind down, and a lot of things are starting to come together for us. So at a staff level, we have pretty much the majority of the comprehensive plan in a draft form. We are still going through several of the sections and trying to trim some of the fat because we acknowledge we don't want an inflated document, but we do want it to be comprehensive, and we do want it to be informative. So with that being said, we're looking forward to bringing forth this information to the Planning Commission for their review, comment, and deliberation. Ultimately, our goal is to try to have a draft document completely through the Planning Commission's process and out to the public by a November, December timeframe, more likely into December and probably into January, just because of holidays and vacations and that kind of thing. But we're trying to push an aggressive schedule to get this information out to you. So what you have there up on the screen, and I believe Deb emailed to you on Friday, is a tentative schedule of meeting dates and information as we're going to provide it to you. You'll notice that we have the elements laid out there, the different chapters, and wrap-up dates. As much as we possibly can, we want to present this information to you at your regular meeting dates, from starting next month in July and running through December. And then depending upon the schedules on those agendas, how heavy the agendas are, or how much discussion that we have additional meeting dates set aside in August, September, October, November, and December. What we're asking is to please set aside those dates. If we don't need them, that's fine, but I'd rather be safe than sorry at this point and get those kind of locked in with you guys and make sure we have that schedule set up. So the regular meeting dates, obviously we start at 7 o'clock as we normally do. The additional meeting dates, we'd like to start those at 6 o'clock if possible. Just because if we're having additional meeting dates, we probably need additional time. So if you guys can get those into your calendars as soon as possible, so that we can get those dates locked up, that would be fantastic. So what you're going to see is, again, this is going to be an aggressive schedule. We're going to do the best we can to keep these chapters to a minimum, but there's a lot of information in them. We're going to be covering a lot of information in a few months here. So what you can expect to see starting in July are the first 4 chapters that'll ease you into the introduction and purpose of the document and all of the legal mumbo jumbo that we're required to have as a lead-in and precursor to the meat and potatoes. We'll then move into some of the hefty elements, the housing, the transportation, and economic development. 7, 8, and 9. We'll then move into community facilities, our historic resources, ag and forest, sensitive areas, minerals. And then what we're going to do at the end is all of that information is then going to play into our ultimate land use and water resources elements. As you are probably aware, the water resources element is going to play a key role in guiding our land use. Water resources deals with water and sewer resources as well as stormwater, but that plays a huge role in our land use efforts into the future. So those will be coming at the end along with the action plan of recommendations that we wish to accomplish over the next 10 to 20 year period of the document. So it's finally coming. We're excited about it, and hopefully you guys will find it as exciting as we do. But we wanted to let you know what's coming and that we're going to be moving on a pretty aggressive schedule. I don't have anything else to add to that. I'm happy to answer any questions, comments, anything like that.
Any questions about this for Jill?
Can we get this schedule in writing?
I believe Deb emailed it out on Friday.
Okay, I'll check my email.
Okay, if you don't get it, please let us know. We'll send it again.
Yep.
And I know I did receive a copy, so figure out. Any other questions about it? All right, I think this actually does conclude our agenda for this evening. And seriously, I'm actually pretty embarrassed about that. I'm sorry for that, everybody. That, as you know, is not normally how I do this. So my apologies. Regardless, I just want to remind you that we do have a meeting coming up next Monday, the 14th at 6:30 p.m. And then our next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting is Monday, July 12th. So to adjourn, I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Clint.
Yes.
So as a follow-up from the last meeting, is there any progress on returning to in-person meetings or what's happening there?
Yeah, I
So
was gonna jump in there. I didn't want to interrupt the motions and stuff. I can tell you that there is a plan in place for the county to start opening the buildings again to the public. The last I've heard is that it's going to be either late June or early July when we're going to put that plan in place. So we could very well potentially be looking at an in-person meeting on July 12th. We will let you know as soon as possible. But at this point, it's still virtual, but I think we might have a good shot at meeting in person at the July meeting.
Will there be Zoom abilities? I'll be out of the country, but I would want to Zoom in.
I don't know that at this point. I don't think there will be.
How about just a conference, just a phone line?
Again, I don't know how the room is going to be able to be set up because right now, the way that the Zoom is set up, it's not conducive to an in-person meeting and a conference meeting or a virtual type meeting. So I am in discussions with our information technologies department now to figure out the logistics of that, but I don't believe we're going to have that availability to go in person and virtual at the same time in that specific room. So we're working on it, but I'll let you know as soon as I find anything out.